All right. Rao, you want to give the tech update?
Yeah, 1 second. I was going to say Fiber already tested the mic before you did, but
oh, that wasn't Fiber.
Oh, that wasn't Fiber. That was Jim's dog then, or somebody else's dog. Anyways, so give me 1 second. I'm going to share my link here, and so I have a relatively light update today, but we're making good progress. The status of the releases as of right now has not changed on the mainnet. We may do another version update or to 0925, calling it 0925.5, but that's still in discussion at this point in time. But we are making good progress on so basically, Last Finalized State, Tomislav spent some more time this week adding to the validation tests. He's all done with it now. So we are fully focused, have been for a few days now, on the block merging things. There is a gist here where it says 0928 block merge. There is a gist here that you can look at that kind of speaks to the conflict resolution issues and solutions in block merging. So that's under development and also is under partial implementation. So basically they're continuing to work this document as well as doing the implementation alongside. So Will has already implemented some portions of this. So that's proceeding well. Separately, NutZipper is focusing on maximally parallelizing the block creation and block processing stuff. So he's looking at, when you do multiple deploys, what are the potential conflicts and how do we resolve them? What is the best policy to deal with them? So he's making progress on that. So those are, I would say, the main I guess core of the ongoing activity currently towards block merge and having more concurrency in the network overall, both within a node and mostly I guess within a node, but so more concurrency in the network. So that's the main progress. And I mentioned last time that NutZipper had to refactor Runtime Manager, and that is done, at least for the current version. This Runtime Manager refactoring is something we may have to come back to a couple times, but we want to do it just in time as needed in an incremental fashion. So like, for example, when we come back to resolve the slashing errors, we may have to do more refactoring. But for now, for what we need for the two activities that I just mentioned, the block merge and the parallelization of deploys, we have enough refactoring already done. Let's see, the dependency updates are going on, slow going. You touch one and you realize that there are 6 other things that are conflicting with what you want to update. So it's a little bit slow going, but we are working through that as we go along. And sometimes there are code changes needed. So we want to minimize that, but at the same time, incrementally, we're tackling that so that we can get to the latest versions of the dependencies and be able to take care of the newer functionality offered by, say, things like cats and cats effects, as well as many of these dependency updates resolve some of the bugs and security issues. So it's an important activity, but it's slow going at this point in time. And NutZipper has not gotten started on this yet, but he and Gurinder will be looking at improving the error logging, debugging, and monitoring infrastructure. So NutZipper is kind of parallel tracking between this and the main activity of deploy optimization, optimizing the deploys in parallelism in the node. So that's where we are. Let me see. Additionally, we have Joe Denman getting started on implementing the Rholang 1.1 spec. I may be jumping a little bit too much around the document, but let me just go to the bottom of the document where I had listed a long time ago all the current backlog we still had. As you read through these items, you'll see that many of these things, like this block merging, and now Rholang 1.1. So they are becoming current items. I still want to leave them in the backlog until they're completed. But it's good to see that what was there in the backlog before is now actually being acted upon. So Rholang 1.1 is one of them. The implementation for this is going to be, I'll update this document with the link to the spec later on. I think I forgot to do that here. But it is, at this point, I think Greg is looking at this as a syntactic sugar and better user experience. And how the implementation is going to be, at least for the first go round, is simply a translation from the Rholang 1.1 spec to current functionality and features that are already in Rholang. So that's what Joe is going to be focusing on. And then if and when it identifies for us optimization issues or something that's that need to be improved, then we will get to that. But for now, we'll just treat it as a syntax translation that will minimize the disruption to the network and requiring a hard fork and things like that. So that's the plan on that. On the hackathon, we have made we're making continuous improvement, and the hackathon page, let me find my spot in the thing here. So the hackathon page, which is rchain.coop/hackathon, is much improved now. A shout out to Dan for substantial improvements to the content here, as well as he's been creating learning resources. He's kind of creating a curriculum that's partly pulling things from some elsewhere, but he's creating some new content also in there. Again, the dates for the hackathon are November 7th and 8th, qualifying test on October 31st. So please promote this in any developer groups that you are part of, any groups that you are linked to. I'm sure the community members engage in a whole lot of different activities. So take a look at this page. There's a registration link on there. There is some videos about, what's the focus of the hackathon and things like that, and then a lot of learning resources. So that's where we are. And I think we're due for another meeting with the community on the hackathon planning. So I'll set that up in the next few days. I'll set it up soon to meet in the next few days this week. So that's where we are. The other thing I want to also point out, once block merge is done, we have some folks' vacation coming up. So that's something they're looking forward to, and they certainly, it's certainly well-deserved and well-needed with all the activity that's going on with a relatively small development team. So overall, I'm quite excited about the next few weeks in terms of what we'll be completing and the getting ready for the hackathon. And as part of that, there is the API-related improvements that Will and Dan and others are working on. So I think by the time we have the hackathon completed, we'll be in a very good spot with a lot of new functionality and hopefully some good dApps developed or in development at the point in time. So that's what I have to say. Are there any questions on anything that I said so far?
So, Rao, I just want to amplify the points you made about Tomislav. So Tomislav completed, if I understand correctly from his comments this morning, he completed the validation, which is an important piece of last finalized state. So he's actually able to validate the state, but in doing so, he unveiled the way that hashing is done with respect to the data structures that we're storing, that it's suboptimal. And so the validation is going to require some, it's going to be a little slower initially, but because we don't want to touch the way the hashing is done, because that touches everything on the network. So we'll have to tackle that one at a later time, but people should be aware that there was a bit of a gaffe in the way that hashing was done. So we're gonna have to fix that. Any other questions or comments about that, or anything else Rao touched on? Awesome. Thank you so much for the update. It was great. Last week, we forgot to do the week in review. So I guess we have 2 community in review updates from Daryl. Are you ready, Daryl?
Oh yeah. Well, I have this week's ready. Last week's I can try to conjure up, but if anybody wants to check out last week's week in review, I actually stuck it on the blog, so you can at least read it there. So that's blog.rchain.coop, and just check out the debrief from last week, and it's all there. But as far as this week goes, for the 24th to today, the 30th, on Thursday at the Tech Governance Working Group, they looked at what is needed for proof-of-stake contracts, sharding, and hard forks. No proposals were created. The group looked at the IEEE organization blockchain governance and the World Economic Forum blockchain toolkit. In the governance committee, also last Thursday, they discussed the current state of the voting DApp, which will be used for the AGM. The committee discussed a plan for moving hackathon-related GitHub activities outside of RChain to the RChain repository. The committee discussed creating a policy regarding the channels for co-op governance, membership, events, RChain platform governance, and the RChain platform core development. We want these to be under the RChain umbrella and use the trademark law to keep ownership of these activities. In the DApp developer working group, they helped Steve Henley set up his Visual Studio Code environment to edit HTML for the RChain annual meeting ballot. On Friday, at the climate coordination call, we discussed New Zealanders prioritizing climate change over COVID-19 in their upcoming election, the reality of climate migration in the US and beyond. And on the coordination front, in the climate coordination call, Greg pointed out that we already have non-conflicting blocks running in parallel, and we are on our way towards block merge. We'll begin to see the performance benefits of RChain in a very short period of time. Our approach to liveness, the synchrony constraint mechanisms, are related to braiding, as pointed out by a descriptive chart that Nutzipper prepared earlier in the week. Greg pointed out that it does not require clocks or fixed sizes. And Steve Ross Talbot recalled discussions with Tim Berners-Lee regarding the shortcomings of the web, regarding provenance and behavioral typing. And said, when you get something from the web, what's important is what you do once getting it. And stated that RChain is the web that we envisioned. Next revolution is the application of AI to this vision. And I love this, Steve Ross Talbot, he said, data is the unleavened bread for AI and ML. And also Greg mentioned that he's reading the Judea Pearl book, the Book of Why. So that was all in the climate coordination call. You can check that out on YouTube or just go to blog.rchain.coop. On Saturday at the RChat call, the separated RChat and RVote repositories divided RV 2020 issues into Gov1 and Gov2 milestones. Yesterday in the communications working group, we discussed a potential slogan for RChain. Some suggestions were the D-Web, decentralized inside and out, computationally safe, right first time. We also discussed how to better promote to devs as the hackathon rears its head, and we talked about polycentric stewardship as a more apt way of explaining decentralized governance. In the developer working group, they worked on RV 2020, checking if voter is registered and abstain choice. And today in the members hangout, Dan did an amazing walkthrough of a slideshow that he prepared describing the Rholang structure and functionality of the voting DApp that we'll be using for the AGM, and some work and thoughts he had for the hackathon. So I'm just going to say that Dan is demonstrating what a friggin' rock star he is and how he is kicking butt right now. Pretty amazing. And recap from the Chinese community via Shixi. Eric Meng is developing a token for placement on RChain. It's called Bullet, and he'll deploy the token contract to the test network this week or next week and write an introductory post. The token can be used to play games. He says we can exchange between Rev and token in a smart contract based on the OCAP model. This token will be airdropped to the holder of the Rev. He's trying to get more people involved in token development at RChain and teach us how to build tokens. And that is it.
Thank you very much, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl? I will just quickly amplify the reason it's relevant. The Judea Pearl book, the Book of Why, is relevant. So people should be aware that Judea Pearl is a Turing Award recipient. He won it for his work on using causation and developing causal theories to amplify notions of inference, right? So there was a sort of diabolical period when the scientific community was unwilling to accept causal models in mathematical models of trending and from data. Which, of course, the reason I say diabolical is because, you know, millions of people died from smoking because the scientific community was unwilling to say that smoking caused cancer despite the preponderance of evidence for decades. And this was due to strange affectation that began with Galton and Fisher. But anyway, Pearl's do calculus is quite interesting, and in particular, I'm looking at it as a way to help us do predictive analytics on RChain. Again, the blockchain seems to have a blind spot with respect to Web 2.0. So the blockchain folks forgot that it's all about the data. And they forgot that names should have structure like URLs. And they also forgot that it's all about the predictive analytics. But getting the math of the predictive analytics right, while at the same time taking advantage of this extra information that we have, which is effectively causal information because we have transactional data. Is a really important thing. So Judea Pearl's work is exemplary, and his book, The Book of Why, is something that just about anybody can read, and that was his intent with writing that book, is that it's not you know, it's for a wider audience. So if anyone is interested, I heartily recommend it. All right, moving on. It seems like we have a candidate for the board who's willing to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about why she wants to run for the board.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, my name is Camilla Remaley. I have been part of RChain since, I have been a member of the co-op since 2018. And I come from a financial background. I have an MBA, and my undergraduate degree was in accounting. That was my major, with a minor in business. So all of my experience has always been related to more of like the financial stuff. I also hold a Series 6 and 7, which are brokerage licenses. I am currently the operations manager for new venture fund, specifically for a project that is called the Dream the US, which provides scholarships specifically to immigrant women, which I am. So I was actually a recipient many years ago of the scholarship, and that's how I was able to get my undergraduate degree. Right after I did that, then I went for my MBA. So since I have always been in the financial industry, and because I was holding brokerage licenses, I couldn't really, it was supposed to be a conflict of interest for me to really take some kind of leadership role with the co-op. But now that I am not doing that so much, I really want to be part of RChain, you know, and kind of step it up a little. So I'm really excited to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Camilla. Any questions for Camilla while you have her here?
I'd love to know where she's based and where she grew up.
Sure. So I was born in Chile, so I grew up in Chile. I came to the US 2 days before I turned 16. So I was 15. And I am in Baltimore, Maryland, which I don't know if anybody knows, but it's about an hour away from Washington, D.C. So I am DC based.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for introducing yourself on this call.
Thank you. I got a little nervous, but
No need to be nervous. We're so happy to have you.
thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to introduce yourself. Any other questions for Camilla? All right. I can announce that as of, I think it was yesterday, the DAppy repo was published to GitHub, made public with the same license as MetaMask, which I think is a perfectly fine license. I'm sure there will be grumbling from other folks, but it seems like a perfectly fine licensing arrangement. So I'm very, very happy to see that DAppy was, that DAppy was open sourced, which makes it much more in alignment with the co-op's goals to and more suitable as an application framework for other cooperative efforts. So very, very excited about that. Any questions about that? Okie dokie. I think that's about all we've got. There are some updates for the closed door session on Friday. But I think that's all we've got for today, unless I've forgotten anything. Ian?
Well, Rao had asked me if we wanted to do a voting demo, and it's in a little rough shape at the moment, but it might make sense for me to show Dan's awesome slides.
Yeah, go for it. Whatever you want to do, Jim, go for it.
Yeah, he's been a phenomenon lately. He's getting ready for the hackathon and everything, and this demo, you know, it's like, it explains the voting app totally, and as well as the row calculus.
Yeah, great intro to Rholang and the row calc.
Okay, and I guess this is the issues list and people that are working on it, the stuff, which is really nice. And this is the voting app itself, where we sign in with metamask. Shows us signed in here. And this is some sample data here where, where we can just select whether we abstain or whether we accept them or not. And as we do so, it fills in the addresses. Each choice we take, whether it's abstain, support, or not, has an address where we send dust. And then we sign and submit the message. And it sends dust to all the addresses. Where the top line here is your Rholang address, and then the 3 lines below it are the 3 choices that he took from the ballot. And as you take the choices, it fills in this contract. And when we get, if you go through the video that he did, he explains it pretty well. And I think a person can understand it pretty well, but even if they're not a programmer. Okay. And I won't go into detail on it here, unless somebody has questions. And then,
yeah, I would like to know, do you know what package he was using for doing the slides?
Google
Slides. Okay, cool.
And you know, the example includes how we send money around, how we do transfers in Rev. It makes sense. He's going to send one Revlet here, the top, very top line. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but and you know and then it does the transactions. He talks about the list ops here, which I guess does these transfers in parallel or whatever. I don't know. I have to look how that works. And you know, it essentially accumulates the votes onto RChain as transactions, and then we can tabulate the results. And then he goes into the row calculus building blocks, and basically this is it, 6 blocks. We have the nil, we have the receive, where one block receives from another block here, which will have to be names, and then we have when this happens, then this block is executed or whatever. And then we have so this is the receive, then we have the send. This block gets sent to that block. We have the star or the asterisk, which makes a name and address. I mean, it makes a name of process, and everything is a process and everything is the name. But we can change them back and forth with stars, and then ats make things names. And the par is the parallel operator, and in Rholang everything runs in parallel. It's all, you know, running at once. Except as we synchronize with sends and receives. And that's the whole language. Then he shows how we can put these together.
Yeah, yeah. What would be nice is if there was a color coding for blocks that are processes versus blocks that are names.
Absolutely. David said the same thing. The tool that he's using, he couldn't do that.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad. But that would have made it even simpler to spot with your eyes.
But basically, we're suggesting that as a project. We should put an issue somewhere to make blocky with color coded for Rholang. But this is, he wants us to be able to write programs like this.
Sure, totally reasonable.
These little blocks.
Yeah.
And then, he shows the send and receive, and then that results in a communication, which is what it does. And I think those that are interested can watch the video and get the word from Dan on exactly how these things are put together. But
he made a video? He made a video?
We made a video in the hour before this, so it will be published later.
Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, Dan did an excellent walkthrough that just kind of really kind of explained it well to lay people like me. And I actually started grasping some of it. So it was very mind-blowing for me.
That's wonderful. It's humbling when something that you discover, other people take it up and start explaining it, sharing it.
And then he goes from the row calculus to Rholang. It's new and the other data types and such. And then goes back to the voting. And all of a sudden, the program makes sense to people.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, you know what? If you did a video of the whole thing like that, is it the whole thing?
Yep.
Well, that we can use for the hackathon video.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that was one of the
awesome.
Yep.
Oh, that's wonderful. I've been working on it, but this is great. I don't have to do this. Yay!
We even went to Rholang 1.1.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really good. That's great news.
Well,
Wow, that's really remarkable. Makes me feel happy. Thank you for showing this, Jim. That's great. Hats off to Dan. All right. Anything else that we want to talk about while we're all together, or can we yield back the time to the community?
I'll put the link in the chat for people if they want to get the.
That's great. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah. All right. Thank you to all. See some of you, I'm sure, on Friday. Please stay safe. Next week, I will be in Alaska, but I should be able to make all the meetings. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everybody.